Hi guys, this is Lishta from Scarlet Moon Creations, and this is my mid-October reading wrap-up where I talk about the books I read in the first half of this month. Things are going well. I have quite a few books. I have at least 5 physical books to talk about. It was obviously a good decision to not participate in any readathons this month because I was stressed last month readathon wise, and even though I only participated in one, however, I did participate in some read-alongs, which are ones I was participating in already. I'll let you know what they are as we go through the books, but since I do have a bunch already, let's get into this. I don't want this to be too long. So, the first book I finished in the first half of the month of October was Good Morning, Good Night by Lin-Manuel Miranda and illustrated by Johnny Sun. This is a non-fiction book I got from the library. It's fairly short. Honestly, it's only 200 pages, and this is what the pages look like. How do I describe this? It's not self-help. It's kind of motivational. It's in a physical form of tweets that Lin-Manuel Miranda had. I don't know if he still does this. I meant to check before I filmed, but I forgot. He kind of writes these little tweets to himself that others, myself included, have found inspiring and or motivational or just nice. And he's the type of person, he says, that would be on Twitter or social media all day long. So as kind of like a cutoff period, like this is the last thing I post for the day, he does an evening tweet as well that kind of corresponds with the first one of the morning. So good morning, good night. And they're nice. He says that his daily greetings kind of grew, and people said he should make a book of them, and so he did, and I really like it. I gave this 5 stars, and I would like to own this so that I can look at it randomly. This is a good coffee table book, by the way, guys. But an example like the one I showed you. Good morning, you are stunning. Use your power wisely. Good night, you are stunning. Lay down your burdens. Some are longer, like this one. Good morning, you've got stuff in your head that no one else has got. You've got stuff in your head that you think you bear alone, but I promise you share with so many. Only way to know the difference is to spill it out on paper, into a mic, into a shrink, onto a canvas. Let's go. Good night. Rest your gifts, rest your burdens, rest your secrets, rest your dreams, rest your unrequited loves, rest the loves that sustain you. Tomorrow you can harvest them all again, on paper, into the mic, to a shrink, onto a canvas. For now, rest. So yeah, and Johnny Sun's minimalist art style is nice. I think it goes well, so check this out. Oh, this I also picked up for Latinx-a-thon. Didn't read it in time, obviously, because that was a September readathon, but Lin-Manuel Miranda is Hispanic, so Hispanic Heritage Month read. Next, I read, or listened to, I should say, The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I've never read this before. I had seen the animated cartoon from like the 70s several times, so I knew the story. I have read the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I we have a box set with all 4 books, and I actually also own the Silmarillion, which I do want to read as well. So, anyway, The Hobbit. This is the prequel to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. If you do not know, we follow Bilbo Baggins on an adventure. Very similar in tone. No, not even. Very similar to what Frodo, his nephew, goes on somewhat in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but it's all in one volume. So, since I hadn't read this, we know the Hobbit movies exist. Peter Jackson went back and made those, and he made 3. And I was confused because I was like, I don't remember this being long enough, for having enough content for 3. So first off, I heard that this was written for a younger audience, and that makes sense. There's a very irreverent tone to this whole thing. There's some serious things that go down, similar to Lord of the Rings, but it's kind of like glossed over and joked about and made fun of. Basically, the story of the Hobbit, or There and Back Again, is the fact that Bilbo gets roped into helping this band of dwarves and Gandalf the Grey. By Gandalf the Grey, he gets roped into being the burglar for this band of dwarves. They go on this trip to try to get back their mountain home that they lost hundreds of years ago. And they go through many trials and tribulations and mishaps and ridiculous situations. We see how the ring comes into Bilbo's possession here, as well as Sting and other stuff. So there's a dragon, there's eagles, the king of the eagles, there's the elves, they're obviously dwarves, and it's all fun and games until somebody dies. And even then, it's just like, we spend a moment on it. So yeah, I'm glad I finally read this. I do see there is enough adventures in here for 3 movies. It's just not, like I said, dwelt on. They hop from one thing to another fairly quickly. And there's stuff going on in the background with Gandalf, if you saw the movies, that is not talked about at all in here. That is in other stories. But, yeah, I enjoyed this. I read this in a day. I read this as part of Tolkienalong. I'll put a link down in the description below, but one of the hosts for that is Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction. And what did I give this? I think I gave this 3.5, 4 stars. 4 stars. I gave this 4 stars. It was fun. It was quick. It was nice. It was appropriate for fall. Next, I finished finally The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is a book 1 in the Stormlight archives, the last of the Cosmere that I have not read. I'm making a big deal out of this, even though this is not the book that has taken me the longest to read. I started in August 28th, and I finished it fairly early this month, so kudos to me. A little over a month, not that bad. This book was 1,047 pages, and it was slow as hell for about 800 of those pages. This is supposed to be book 1 in a 10-book series by one of the greatest fantasy writers currently living, point blank period. There's a lot of introspection. I can't believe I'm saying this, but trigger warnings for mental health for depression and anxiety, for suicidal thoughts in particular. The mental health rep in this is pretty good. It made me realize that those situations where a character is depressed and we're dealing with it on the page is triggering to my own depression. There were many a week where I would read about 20 pages from a particular character's point of view and then be, I don't want to say slumpy, even though that's kind of how I felt, because slumpy is a word that book Twitter, booktube uses to be like, oh, I'm not reading as much. But, I mean, there's definitely that, but it was more like I would then have a minor depressive episode where I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to get up. I would feel negatively about any plans I had made that day, anything I wanted to do, and it was really hard to just be, and I had no foundation for why I was feeling that way. At least in my own head, it felt like these feelings were coming out of nowhere. So I was kind of beating myself up for like not being productive for no reason. And I didn't realize this was triggering me until we got to about halfway through the book, and that character was going through another like depressive episode, and in a flashback, and it was, in this particular instance, it was a seasonal depression, and the word depression is not used. It's a fantasy world, and I don't think he realizes, but just the way that was worded set off a light bulb in my head, and then I was talking about it with other people who have been reading, and they were like, yeah, so this character goes through depressive episodes, and I was like, oh my god, this is the connection. And then once I realized it, I understood why I wasn't loving this character. Like, he's a favorite for everyone. On the other hand, there's another character who, I mean, she's not the only one, but it's like I explained to someone else, like everything negative about this world was condensed into this one ignorant person, and she like personified it all. And so the thing is, I don't have a problem reading things with racism, colorism, sexism, and violence, things like that. But I guess that triggers me, like I'm aware it triggers an anger in me, and like that's different because I'm aware, and I also have learned how to deal with that. Like I feel like that's a way, maybe that's purposefully done in many cases, so you don't like this particular character. They're written that way on purpose. At least for me. I don't know how like white men feel about it, but I can guess. So anyway, and it's in this particular world, it's not like, real world racism, sexism, colorism, that kind of thing. And there's also this religious hierarchy, and I'm forgetting the word for it, but when people feel like their religion is better than others and you are stupid and less than, and they pity you for it, and or they feel like they have to preach to you to save you. And so I've dealt with all of that in real life, and it's not the same again in this fantasy world, but it made me really viscerally hate this character, and I still do. I appreciate now that it's over that she is learning, but the fact that she is young, ignorant, and has lived a privileged lifestyle, and also kind of stupid because the premise of her, for the most part, her part of the plot was dumb. She's an idiot, in my personal opinion. But, yeah, so I don't like this character, and then we're switching back and forth between her and the depressed character. We get a few breaks here and there, and then there's one other character that I really came to love by the end of the book, and he's not perfect, but he's older, he has a wider worldview and more experience, and is not depressed, so it was easier for me to enjoy him. I am still thinking about my rating for this. It's hard to give plot. But yeah, we're basically following three main characters, Kaladin, Shallan, and Dalinar. They're in this world where there are several countries and several different types of people and beliefs, and the main happenings of the book is there's this war between two peoples, and it's supposedly, it started out as revenge for one people's killing the other's king, and it has devolved into sort of this competition for these gem hearts so that either side can get more power. And there's some political intrigue, lots of that going on. There are battles being fought. There's also other stuff happening outside of the war that we're not exactly sure about, and nothing is given away. We only know what the characters know when they know it, and also anything that they're already aware of is not really explained. So it's a lot, but I didn't feel confused at any point. Personally, I was just like, what's the plot? Where are we going with this book? And why is it taking so long? And why is it messing with my head? So I'm wavering between 3.5 or 4 stars. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about all of this slow, agonizing build-up for the avalanche, the Sanderlanche at the end in the last, 100 pages or so. We wouldn't have gotten there without it, but I'm not sure was it worth it, or is this, we just deal with this because there's 9 books after this. So, I don't know how I feel about that. So 3.5 or 4, didn't hate it. I definitely want to continue to the next book, Words of Radiance. So, that was the 3rd book I finished in the month of September so far. Next up, I read another bit of the memoirs of Sherlock. It's another ebook. I read the Rygate Puzzle. It's a fairly short mystery in this book. So if you don't know, if you haven't been following me for long, because I haven't read a Sherlock story in a while, I have an ebook version of the complete collection of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle, and I've read about 700 pages, a little less than that, of it. And it's autumn. Mysteries are on my mind, so I picked this up again. And I'm in the middle of the memoirs of Sherlock, and there's a bunch of short story mysteries, and I've read the Rygate Puzzle. Not too much detail because it is short. Sherlock is apparently recovering from this big international crime that he solved, and Watson convinces him to go out to the country to visit friends of his so Sherlock can recover. While there, a crime is committed, a burglary happened just before they arrived, and the next day after they got there, murder happened, and the local police come over having heard that Sherlock is nearby, and they ask him to help out, and he does despite not being fully recovered. And this was nice. It was a nice little interlude, especially after Way of Kings. I just needed something short and quick and not that much depth and brain power necessary. So after that, I picked up my next physical book, which was Illuminate by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the first book in the Illuminate Files trilogy by these authors. This is a book told in mixed media. So we have files, text and email transcripts. We have notes and audio files. We have what do they call them? Radio messages, surveillance footage, summaries, things like that, and it's from various points of view. We also have some schematics of the ships. So this is a sci-fi. I wanted to read this for sci-fi space opera September, and having finished it, it would have been perfect, but obviously I didn't finish it and get to it in time. I really enjoyed this. We follow Katie and Ezra, two teenagers who are on a planet that is doing some illegal work when it gets attacked by a rival company. And Ezra and Katie, like I said, are teenagers, and they were dating and had just broken up the day before the attack, and they and some other refugees escape onto ships and leave their planet, are in a race to get to the nearest way station so that they can get to safety. So that's what I knew going in. I didn't read the blurb. This is, I also, if you watched my vlogs and saw, I picked this and also some other stuff as potential highest rated book, because this was the highest rated sci-fi in my Goodreads. And this, I'm so glad I read this. This was really good. I know people said something about listening to the audiobook while reading, but that was really distracting, so I stopped pretty early on, and I'm glad. Because this, as well as being a sci-fi, is also a bit of a horror. I might have picked that up a little bit if I had read the synopsis in the front cover. Because there is an outbreak in here, and there's also an issue with the AI of one of the ships that rescued them. So there's a lot of things going on here, and it's like this whole space adventure. And there were times I felt like the romance wasn't done very well, or not done very well. It wasn't necessary, but then as I kept reading, I realized, okay, And I was kind of fooled for a while up until just before a big reveal, and I was like, don't tell me Ezra. And then maybe 20 pages later, that proved to be true. And I was just like, oh man, this sucks. But I like Katie and Ezra. I like Aiden. I want to read more. I was very confused up until like the last 2 or 3 pages as to how this could possibly be a trilogy. Like, what's there to complete? But actually, I should say the last 10 pages clarified that. So I'm interested to continue reading this. I gave this a 4.5 stars. I don't want to make this too long because I got other books to talk about, but I enjoyed the hell out of this. So good. So good. So those are all the books I read in the first half of the month of September. As you can see, I'm already doing loads better than the first half of October. I'm going to finish Tolkienalong, even though I've recently, like a couple of months ago, reread The Fellowship of the Ring, Book 1 in The Lord of the Rings. And I read The Way of Kings as part of the Stormlight archive read along, and like the 3 different ones I'm participating in. The other 2 are a Cosmere along, and just a group of people I've been reading Cosmere books with. So I'll continue those. And there's one last read along I'm starting this month, and that is, I think it's called Akatar Along, A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is the other series by Sarah J. Maas. I was just looking at the book 2, which I own, and I'm waiting for that library book to come because I plan on reading that this month. So you'll hear more about that in my October wrap up. How is your reading month going so far? How has it been? Are you enjoying the books you read? Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you think. My reading finishing the Sherlock Holmes, the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, kind of fits for Victober, so I may or may not count that for that, but I'm reading it because I like it. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and hit that notification bell so you're notified when more videos come out. There are, as always, links in the description to support Black Lives Matter, to sign petitions to gain more knowledge, for self-care, which I've added recently, so do check those out. And as always, I have a link to my Etsy shop where you can get a 10% off discount code simply for watching. If you want to buy Bath and Body products or witchy ritual stuff, you should start for the holiday season as gifts for yourself or for others. You should start purchasing now because things are going to get insane, and the shipping, the post office is already slower than normal, so you want to get on and purchase now. Link, as always, in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.